has arrived. Here we go. This is what the Titan 4500 rotisserie looks like in its packaging material. So they put it on a pallet, and I've already cut off the strapping material. They did a really good job, I think. They strapped around the box several times, and then they even went down the center here. You can see the indentation right there of a strap there. And then they strapped it to a pallet so you could get it lifted up and down with a forklift pretty easy. So very happy with the packaging so far. Doesn't look like it's damaged at all. Of course, considering what it's made out of, I doubt there's ever going to be a problem. But I would imagine though, if you did drop this sucker wrong from about, tailgate height, you probably would break open this box for sure. But at any rate, pretty good job with the packaging, etc. So very happy with that. Now I'm going to start unboxing it, and we'll begin assembling. Off and on mowing yards and all this other stuff. So let's see, it's 9:15 now in the morning. We'll see how long this takes to get this thing on there. I did buy every single attachment that they sell in regards to, fitting it to all kinds of applications. I still know I'm gonna have to do some custom work here, and again, I got a torch plasma and a welder, so I'm not scared of that at all. But point being is that we'll see how long this takes to get this to there. Unfortunately, I don't have a cameraman or a woman or whatever you want to call them, camera person. There we go. And so you're gonna have to bear with me on this, but there you go. This is what it looks like when you open it all up. And again, I bought every single attachment that they make in regards to hooking it up to the vehicle and the stabilizer legs and all of that. So they threw it all in one box. So if you did not buy these stabilizer legs or whatever, it'd look a little more empty, but this is pretty much it right here, ladies and gentlemen. What it looks like. So again, we'll start bringing things out, and we'll have to find some instructions if they have them. And if they don't, then I guess go online looking for it, or I don't know. I bet I could probably figure this out with just a picture. So at any rate, now you know what it looks like inside there. So here's the instructions right here. This is what they look like. A little small booklet. For the most part, they did a really good job packing it. They wrapped everything in bubble wrap. A lot of stuff in bubble wrap, let me put it that way. So if you're looking for this thing to look brand new and shiny and really, really pristine and whatnot, it's gonna do that pretty much, actually. It's gonna look pretty good. But there are a few scratches, in the paint or powder coating or whatever it happens to be. Probably because of, the shipping and whatnot, things rubbing against each other. But, for me, it's gonna, I'll tell you this, it'll look good 10 feet away when you first assemble it. Because it's just gonna, it looks brand new, looks good, looks pretty strong, heavy duty. I'm pretty certain it'll do all the 4500 that they claim it will. So technically speaking, I could take my entire car with the engine and transmission in there, and I could put it on this rotisserie. That's basically what they're saying with 4,500 pound capacity. But when I put it on, I'm going to have the front suspension still on probably. I will take it off, but I will have it on at least while I put it on the rotisserie. And then I do plan to have the rear axle out. But again, that just kind of depends on where I'm going to hook it up. So just putting those tips out there. Just so you can get a shot of what it looks like You can see down in there, they didn't get all the way inside there, but for the exterior, for the most part, they did a pretty good job. Looks like they may have protected the bolt holes from getting filled with paint and whatnot. Either that or they ran a tap or a cleaner through there. So that's pretty good shape. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get everything out of the box onto the tailgate. Then after I get it off the tailgate, then I start bringing it down here, because then that way, you know, I kind of fill the tailgate up while I'm up in the pickup. I come down, now I can stand up and take everything off the tailgate, and I'm piling everything over here to be the rotisserie, and I'm piling everything over here to be all the accessories like the leg supports, the adapters, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the building process. So you can see here, they actually did store the other tube inside here, so you need to be careful. This one here is actually kind of sticky. It's not coming out just by tipping it, but if yours happens to come along and be one that will slide really easy, if you tip this wrong, it might come sliding out really fast, so be careful of that. Most everything is capable of being lifted by one person, but if you can get some help, it'd probably be advisable. So here's an example of what I was telling you. If you're looking to have something that's brand spanking new, it's just not going to happen. The only reason why they make it look new, of course, in the videos that they display is because it was built right at the factory and used at the factory. But you got a few marks here. Again, I don't know if there's choices where you can flip it upside down to not see it or whatever, but nonetheless, it is the effective shipping. Okay, so like I said, I had to stop and get the mowers fixed. We broke a rope pull start, etc., so on and so forth. Treat the fuel for winter because we are getting into the fall season, so I wanted to treat that with the AMSOIL. Now, it took me approximately almost 30 to 45 minutes to get all this stuff out of that crate right there. So now we're going to go ahead and start assembling this thing, and again, I'll have the video going and we'll see how fast it goes. I'm going to use the tailgate here as a workbench, and here we go. So the instructions here are pretty comprehensive considering. You got a parts list and of course a complete picture of everything that should be included. You can lay it out like this. I don't have it laid out like this. And then this is it right here. This is the installation and assembly instructions right there, one page. And then of course a very small blown up diagram here showing you the numbers on what to use. And then of course they tell you what bolts to use. This is your bolt package right here. I'm going to have air tools. So this thing should go together pretty fast. We'll see how long it takes. So one of the things that I noticed right away was the fact that sometimes the washers and whatnot are very, very similar. You can see that this one here is a little bit bigger than this one right here. So there are some differences. What I decided to do was start sorting through all the nuts and bolts and look for things that are of the exact same size and then kind of organize that. And I think that's going to make that a lot easier. So, and I also plan to put this thing together kind of loosely at first, and then probably tighten everything up at the very end. But we'll see what I have to do. Maybe there might be a step where I actually have to, you know, tighten everything up for good, or there will be a spot where I can. But for the most part, usually, generally when I'm assembling something like this, I put it together loosely, and then that way, if I need to, you know, align a bolt hole or something like that, it's usually a lot easier to do that. And then once I got all the bolts in there and everything, and I know I'm good to go, I try to make sure that it's straight and set, and then I go ahead and tighten everything up. And again, I plan on using air tools. So. So I guess I'm going ahead and I'm tightening everything up as I go, because of how this thing goes together. It seems like it's going to work out that way. I found that it is metric, by the way, in case you're wondering. I mean, there's that one quote that says that one country's been to the moon, everybody else uses metric. But that being said, I'm a big fan of metric as well. I just like the way you can pick your sizes much easier, because nothing is half of this or a third of that or 1/16 of that. It's just, you know, it's 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter. Anyway, off subject. But the point is that yeah, it is a metric setup. I had to use 21 millimeter for the bolt head of the main structure and a 22 for the nut. So that kind of annoying that you gotta, you know, you find out that both sides are different and you have to go get a different wrench for each side. I used a 1/2" impact. I thought that was going to be a little bit too big, but it was the only tool that I had impact wise, air tool wise, that I had a big enough socket to fit. But now that I have done it, I realized that 1/2" is definitely what you're probably going to need, because of the fact that when I was tightening it down, you could actually see the actual 1/4" metal starting to kind of, it wasn't really flat to the surface, and that's because when they welded it, it kind of pulled a little bit. And so, yeah, it'd be a good idea to use a 1/2" impact or a good pair of, you know, longer wrenches or whatever. I mean, I guess you can use a torque wrench, but then these bolts are so big, I don't foresee them breaking. After all, this thing is rated at 4,500 pounds. So anyway, just wanted to put that out. One of the biggest reasons why I like this is because of the 8" capture. Look at these things. They're awesome. Pretty much the polyurethane rubber. They got guards right here to keep dirt and stuff from getting in there. These big old brakes that will come down and touch the wheel. There is bearing plate here, and it also has a grease zerk right there that you can put grease in there if you want. I can see that they're lightly greased up right now, so probably really don't even need anything, at least not for a long time, especially if you're not even going to be using this thing that much. I doubt you would need this to grease that up much. Personally, I always like putting lightweight oil or something like that in there anyway, because it sprays in there and then it cleans it out, and then it evaporates, and eventually you got to do it again. But when you first spray it in, it's really loose and it does a really good job. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why I picked this one, is because it has probably the largest and softest, you might say, casters out there. A lot of them have the steel casters. If you've ever tried to go over a little pebble or rock or something with a steel caster or cast iron, you're gonna know it. These polyurethanes, they go over everything, and they do a really good job at it. And since these are so big, I will easily be able to go up and over my concrete lips. All these cracks that I have here, these are gonna work very, very awesome. So one of the biggest reasons why I picked this particular rotisserie. Now, one of the things that I want to note is that they could have made this thing a lot cheaper by just drilling holes and giving you nuts to put in there. Now, of course, you can see that would be really tight. I mean, honestly, they could have actually brought this plate out further and then drilled the hole and not threaded it and given you a nut and washer and lock washer, and probably made it, I think, a lot cheaper. All they would have had to do is just come out another, you know, 1/4 inch on either side and put the hole out here, and they could have made it, you know, again, a lot cheaper for themselves and possibly for the customer, but I'm pretty sure they would not have passed that cost on, right? I don't know, but my point that I'm making is I actually like this. I like the fact that they took the extra time to thread these holes, because of the fact that what happens is this allows you to have, you know, nice smooth finish, etc., and you're not always spending a lot of time assembling with nuts and bolts and washers and etc., 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 like you are over here, for example. I mean, this here, you have to have a nut, and you need to have a bolt and the washers and everything, and then this bolt head is 21 millimeter and this nut head is 22 millimeters, so I need 2 different wrenches. So again, I appreciate the fact that they do you know, tap and thread these, because that makes it really clean, really quick, and so much more simpler. Here's just something that I noticed right there. I don't know, a little bit of powder coating or paint that's, you know, kind of stuck there. I mean, I guess if you're going to be nitpicky, that's something you could pick about, but personally, I'm never going to care. So, I think it's a good deal either way. So I've just discovered on the one set that I just got done that it says the brakes off and they're working, but with the brakes on, it rolls freely. So I guess what you have to do is just kind of, I don't know if they turned it around backwards or something, assembled them backwards or whatever. Personally, I don't care. I just want them to work when I need them to work. So that's just one thing that you need to know. You need to know that you need to pay attention to that. I guess if you wanted to put one strike against Titan, there it is. But otherwise, I'm really enjoying the build, and it's coming together really nice, and I know it's going to be a good unit when it's done. If you're wanting to know what I'm talking about, here it is right there. You can see this one says on, this one says off. And on the other unit where I have it together, if I have the brakes off, they're actually on. If I have the brakes on, they're actually free rolling. So once again, I'm finding the same thing with the other casters. When the brakes are off, they're really on, and when the brakes are on, they're actually free rolling. Those bigger casters are, I'm going to tell you, trying to line those holes up and put the bolts in, they can be a little tricky. So you better have strong hands or have somebody help you, because that bearing plate wants to move around quite a bit. Those casters are really heavy, and then it's a little awkward the way I was doing it because it was at an angle, so on and so forth. I mean, I highly recommend that you have another person helping you out if you're inexperienced with this stuff, or again, you don't work with your hands and got strength in your hands and whatnot. But either way, you can get it done if you just keep at it.